There's no need for a beer check anymore. Yeah. Oh. You know what's gonna happen, right? I got a text, so it's Q&A time. Let's go. First question. Can I put Secam Purigen Matrix Denitrate Phosguard in the same canister filter but in different meter bags? Yes. Why not? How often do I doze flourish? I'm guessing Secam flourish to my cycling tank. I heard from daily to twice a week. With Secam, you go on their website, there's a dosage chart. It's very well thought through system with a chart in a PDF form where you can see what you should add on Monday, what you should add on Tuesday, and so on. It's very easy to follow and you don't really have to think about it. After some time, after your tank is running and you see any problems, you should start testing for the separate nutrients and add more or decrease the amount of some of them, but that's more the in-depth part of aquascaping, which not a lot of people do. Usually you can follow the factory recommendation. You said you would make a wave with sand in the last scape on top of the soil. How do you do that? My sand wave would disappear within days, falling down to the front or into the soil, since sand is heavier than the soil. I guess this is for the hardscape video, right? Probably phrased it wrong. We never put sand on soil. Whenever we make a sand pad, that part is sand only. We don't put anything underneath. So yeah, that's it. You're right. It would sink down in between the soil, so we wouldn't do that. Next one. I try matrix from Secam and not sure, but I have over 6 milligrams per ppm of silicates. Is it possible? What is the solution? It has nothing to do with matrix. Silicates can come from your tap water. Even if you're using RO water, not all the osmosis systems can take out silicates, and it can also come from the sand if you use a lot of them. A way around it would be some filter media against silicates. We use JBL Silicate X and we use Secam's Phosguard. Actually, any filter media that takes up silicates, it also takes up phosphates and the other way around as well. So yeah, you can use one of those. Silicates mostly cause diatom algae when starting up a new tank, and it usually goes away by some time. First personal one, this is not even a question. I get the feeling Tommy drives a Volkswagen. No. I don't have anything against them, but no. My Monte Carlo become floating after 8 months planting using dry start method. Why? Well, it has nothing to do with the method. It doesn't matter how you plant it. Main reason for Monte Carlo or Cuba or any of these plants floating up is that you leave it too thick, you don't trim enough, and the bottom part doesn't get enough light. And these plants have very small root systems, so when the light doesn't go to the bottom part, it starts dying, rotting basically, and it gets detached from its own root system, and that's when your whole carpet floats up. Can the water change routine be done even if it's not RO water? Yes. We do the same water changes with osmosis water and with tap water, so there's no difference. The regular water changes in the beginning, the daily water changes, and the weekly after some time, it's all the same. It doesn't depend on what kind of water you use. Does Ooyy make a canister filter with built-in heater that would be small enough for an ADA Mini M 30 cm tank? Yes. Most people, when they think about Ooyy filters, they think of the Biomasters, the big ones, which would be overkill for a Mini M. But there's the Filter Smart line, which has heated and not heated versions as well. I think the Filter Smart 100, maybe the 200 would be perfect for a size like this. How much lighting is needed per day for this tank? This came regarding Vicky's Nano Beta tank. 7 hours a day. That's usually our go-to number with lighting. It doesn't really depend on the setup. If you're using a way overpowered light, then you should use a bit less. If your light is very weak compared to the setup, then you can add 1 or maximum 2 hours, but 7 hours a day is a nice place to start, which in 90% of the cases works perfectly. I used liquid glue gel to attach Christmas moss on the driftwood, and now it looks like white patches on the moss and driftwood. Is it because I applied too much? First of all, was it liquid or gel? For gluing plants, we use gel type. And yes, probably you've put on way too much. So you should need just a very small amount which can hold the plant in place. And after that, you actually wait for the plant itself to grow on the surface. Otherwise, you get the white patches. Any type of glue gets white underwater. How did you guys glue the moss underwater? You can use the gel type glue anytime. It's perfectly same for water. If the question is for gluing moss in a running tank, then our recommendation is lower the water level as much as you can, apply the glue to the moss itself, and then push it down on the surface. These gel type glues, they dry up very quickly, especially if they get in touch with water. So if the surface of the rock or wood is wet, or the surface of the moss is wet, then it's gonna dry instantly. So what you should do is pat down the plant with a paper towel, apply the glue, and immediately put it on in its place, and it's gonna stay there. What if I tear off chunks of moss instead of trimming? Or maybe simply vacuum of the moss if it is not tightly glued tied. That way probably we can avoid the bits floating around. You're probably gonna have the same problem. So if you tear off a small bit, there's gonna be another small bit that just gets lost in the way. Our best practice, especially for bigger tanks, is have a filtration system running where the suction side is pointed to where you trim the moss, and it sucks it off immediately. The moss gets caught in the filter, but the water comes back to the aquarium, so you don't lose water level while you are doing this. You shouldn't use your regular filter for this. So this should be a separate device only for cleaning the tank and trimming moss, because it's gonna get clogged up very quickly, especially if you have a lot of moss. Hey guys, I have 2 questions. We let them have 2 questions now. 1. Once in how many days you guys clean the pre-filter of the Oasa Biomaster filter? And 2, I heard Balázs mentioning in one of the videos that you guys use an Oasa Biomaster filter on a 60p. Isn't that flow rate too high for 60p? First one, depends on the tank. So I would say usual maintenance of the pre-filter should be monthly, but it can get clogged up quicker, especially for a new tank. You might have to clean it out after 2 weeks, and it can run 2 or 3 months without cleaning if your setup works like that. It depends on a lot of things in your tank. As for using a Biomaster for 60p, actually our main recommendation for a 60p would be a Biomaster 250 or 350, depending on how high-tech you're gonna go. If you have lots of light, lots of CO2, lots of fertilization, then we would recommend the 350. And in some cases, we would even use the 600 Biomaster. When you choose a filter, you should think about the amount of filter media you can use, the amount of biological filter media. And the bigger the filter, the more room you have for biomedia. As for the flow, you can adjust it. All these filters are perfectly fine if you reduce the flow to 50% on the outflow. So the only thing you have to make sure is that you can't reduce the inflow of the filter on its own. With these type of filters like the Biomaster or the Eheim Professional series, there is this adjuster lever on it which adjusts both the inflow and the outflow together. Or if you have a system where you have taps on the hoses like an old Eheim Classic, then you can only adjust the outflow of the filter, but it's perfectly fine up to 50%. What car do you have, Tommy, and did you modify it? If so, how? We always get back to cars. Yes, so I have an Alfa Romeo Giulia as my daily driver. It's sad, but a week ago it's being crashed underneath me. I wasn't at fault. I stopped at a red light and someone ran into me from behind. I'm waiting to find out if it's repairable or not. But yeah, that's my daily driver. It's stock at the moment. There's no modifications. And I have a project car, which used to be my daily, which is an old BMW E36. It's a 2.5 straight 6. It has an air suspension underneath, some custom built BBS rims. So yeah, these are the love of my life. And of course, my wife. Great video, but you upset me a bit with those mountain stones. Yesterday I just launched the tank with them. Mine are those original ADAs, and I heard they don't raise GH and KH that much. Do you know more about them? Okay, so this is again about the hardscape video. Important. We call different stones and different names depending on the part of the world. So what you have as mountain stone with ADA is not the same as what we have as mountain stone in Europe. Same goes for Seriu, which is nowadays a lot of people call it mini landscape, what we have as Seriu, but also ADA has Seriu, which is completely different, so don't get caught up in this. I've been talking about the mountain stone we have. The mountain stone from ADA, that doesn't really do anything with your water, so you should be fine, don't worry about it. And to the same topic, so even the petrified stone, I'm guessing that's petrified wood stone, alters the water parameters. I'm looking for something that don't raise my KH, and I don't like lavic stone and slate too much. What would be a good choice for Ryobuku style? I said that petrified wood alters water parameters. I think there is no stone available where you can be 100% sure that it's not gonna do anything to your water at all. What I mean is, even the ones that don't usually raise your KH, they can raise your TDS by 10 ppm, which is nothing. You won't even notice, but you can never be fully sure with any kind of hardscape. But the ones I mentioned in the video that don't affect your water too much, those are the ones you're looking for. So this is dragonstone, petrified wood stone, lava stone, and so on. These are mainly inert to your water. I've seen that in Green Aqua you have a temperature of around 22 degrees Celsius in all your tanks. Is there some exception, and what's the main reason for that? We find it that for plants, especially more difficult plants like Cuba and Ealot, 22-23 degrees Celsius is perfect. And that's why we try to keep all our tanks at the same temperature. Most plants are fine up to 25 degrees and problems start above that, but it's just easier to keep all our tanks in a range which is perfect for all the plants, and we don't adjust this one by one for the tanks. Actually, we don't have any heaters in the showroom. We have very high level air conditioning system which keeps the room temp perfect all the time. What are you using to remineralize the RO water? Well, it depends on what you have in your tank. If you only have inert stuff like lava stones and wood and Silicas matrix has filtration and so on, so you have nothing that would change the water in itself, then we would use GH-KH booster. If you have, for example, Seriu stones, which can raise your TDS level quite rapidly, then we only use GH+, because the KH will come from the stones. So yeah. How to solve the limestone raise the pH in aquarium? My tank stays 7.1 to 7.4 pH when CO2 is switched off. You should not use limestones in a planted tank. That's it. It's limestones they're used in cichlid tanks, where they actually like the high pH and it doesn't really bother them. So yeah, that's a different system. In planted aquariums we avoid limestone. You can have some limestone residue on rocks. For example, the white lines of the Seriu stones, that's actually limestone, but that's not so much. It doesn't really mess up your system. Just want to ask, what kind of epoxy or glue are you using to stick the stones together? We use two types. We have the Impa glue, which is very toxic, very smelly, and we hate to work with it, but you need it for big stones and big builds. You've seen Balázs use it a couple of times, even I tried it. I don't like working with it. For smaller ones, when you just want to make sure that your system is not going to fall apart, so when it can actually stand on its own, but you want to be really sure it's going to stay that way. In those cases, we use liquid super glue with some paper towel or fine filter mesh. You can see this in a lot of our builds. It works perfectly for just attaching a few stones or even wood to stone or whatever. What are you spraying on the glass for the white vinyl background to stick? It's actually not to make it stick, it's to avoid it sticking too quickly. What we use is regular glass cleaner. You make it very, very wet, the surface of the glass and also the surface of the vinyl, and this way when you put it on, you can still move it about. It doesn't stick to its place easily. When you finished moving it about and it's in perfect place, then you start cleaning out the glass cleaner from in between the glass and the vinyl. How long can an aquascape last up to? If we are doing water changes and maintenance religiously, can I keep it forever? No, not forever, but usually most hobbyists keep their scapes for 1 year, mostly because of the contest periods. It's every year you have to build something new and you're gonna get bored of it. So if you build an Iwagumi now, probably in a year's time you want to build something with wood. That's completely natural. But if you want to, you can keep up a nice scape for, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years. You can see ADA tanks running for over 10 years now. We have client aquariums running for over 5 years without any major issues. Some plants need to be replaced after some time, and you have to make sure that you reapply nutrient capsules into the soil from time to time. It's possible to keep a tank like this running for years. That's not a problem at all. And last question is, why is it worth subscribing to Green Aqua? Yeah, why not? Goodbye.